What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Omnic Lab 144. This is the post-match interview for our game night for the month of March. No, just kidding. This is Omnic Lab. We're a podcast about strategies in the game of Overwatch. We help you kind of learn trial and error. If you're new here, it's kind of that idea. And we are super hype because we have a mega patch coming up this week that has hit the PTR in 3 different avenues since our last recording. It started the day that we recorded our last episode. So we're going to try to get out one more episode for you guys at the end of March here. Right after this live show, we're actually going to push it right to the servers. My name's Rob. Joining me, as always, is my friend and yours, Andres Gomez. What's up, Andres?
Ayo. The pollen seeped in and attacked me in the morning, so my throat is a little bit rusty. But aside from that, feeling super good. There's new changes coming up even more. I don't know what Blizzard is doing over there, but they're just cranking out those changes like crazy. This episode we've decided to name the Need for Speed patch because that's basically what they're doing. They're upping the speed to some heroes that have needed it for a little bit, and we'll see how that pans out.
Absolutely. Also, we wanted to do a quick recap of one of our, probably, I won't say favorite game nights, but it's up there. It's definitely one of the most fun that I've had in playing actually in both lobbies for the evening. It was a lot of fun. We had a really good turnout for the game night, March 29th, which we will do the next one at the very end of April, and I will give you the date right now because it's easy for me to look up. At the end of April will be the 26th. So we will see you guys there. If you can make it, please come. That weekend is unfortunately something that I won't be there, but Andres potentially could be there, and we'll have our admins and the regulars will always be there. So don't fret. Andres, talk to me about what was it like for you when we first started kicking things off. You were there early and stayed real late. So
yeah, I think I started the first lobby, and I left at like 1 in the morning. I started at 8 and left at 1. So yeah, that's a good like 5 hours.
That's a long time.
Yeah. Of straight Overwatch. It was really fun this time though. We were definitely trying out new meta stuff. I was playing a lot of main tank, but the caveat here is by main tank I mean Hammond and
Wrecking
Winston.
Ball.
Yeah, a lot of Wrecking Ball specifically. I'm really been liking the style of main tanking that you do with Wrecking Ball, because it's a little bit more elusive, right? You're not playing front line too much. You're just kind of running circles all over the enemy team and running them over like bowling balls or bowling pins. Sorry. Yeah. It's pretty fun. So I played a lot of Hammond, and the few times that I did play DPS, I played a lot of Soldier. And again, that guy is just insane right now. I was outdueling McCree's. And you can outrun pretty much anything, right? When they come chase you, you can just relocate and keep shooting. So I was having a lot of fun. Definitely more mobile. I feel like even in the game night, compositions that were a little bit slower tend to struggle a little more. I don't know if that was just my impression, but Hammond was the way to go.
Yeah, I actually tried Hammond one of those games, and I suck with Hammond. I cannot get the proper technique for knowing how much air I have before I can actually slam.
Yeah.
And then my grapples are a little wonky with the ping. I haven't quite figured out like how to lead properly with them yet. It's like the weird projectile thing that once you figure it out on your MS, you can kind of figure it out and like, okay, that's what's good. But for the evening, I actually only played Ana like a grand total of maybe like 2 games the whole night. So I was really, really happy. I had a lot of Sombra games shutting down Hammonds on the enemy team.
Oh, yeah.
Finally got the chance to play Volskaya, and I played Sombra to a lot of success. It was huge. 1v1ing Zenyatta's, jumping into the back line and causing chaos. It's just like Hammond, but you're a DPS. So it was really fun.
Sombra is another hero that is really good in this meta because, yeah, she gets under the skin of a lot of the heroes that are really good, right? And you take away their
Yeah.
capabilities.
It was
Um,
also a lot of fun to play the new context of Baptiste in a semi-competitive way, if
yeah,
that makes sense. And again, Sombra, I'll harp on her strength again because when we played on what was it? Yeah, I think it was Volskaya Defense B. I picked her and I tried to see how many health packs I could hack before the first fight broke out. And I literally had the one on the point, the one in the back right room that's like the major flank that you have to jump across the lake to get there. And I hacked both packs on the far left side. So we
you're just
had
being mean there.
it was crazy. You have a 4-second cooldown. So by the time you hack the first one and translocate and walk to the second one, you have like 1 second left in your cooldown, and then you can just run over to the second and third area and get those up. And then by the time the first fight's kind of breaking out, then you just turn around, hack somebody, and the fight just disperses when they try to go find a health pack, and you just go and punish whoever runs the first health pack. So it was really
Yeah.
interesting because you can shift your playstyle quite a bit now if you
It's
want to.
crazy how short that translocator timing is once you're using it on cooldown. It feels almost like
Right.
a Winston jump, right? Like you get it that fast.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
One a little bit of advice that I wanted to give you guys too. And thanks BS Weasel for the 500 bits. You're the man.
Yeah.
For Hammond specifically, one thing that helped me play the hero a little bit more, and because I agree, at first it's kind of hard to kind of calculate how much air do you need, and his grapple is kind of short, so you tend to kind of like mess it up a lot. And if you mess it up and you lose your momentum, you're just hanging there by your grapple, a little bit
Yeah.
like defenseless, right? So you never want that to happen. One of the things that really helped me kind of like start picking up the hero was not trying to get very fancy with like the airdrops or trying to swing myself around and get like a ton of air and then like land right on top of them, because it's easy to mess up your movement like that. And then it's easy, once you mess up, it's easy to get killed or not get any value, right? Like you just end up in this whole area without your grapple that you didn't even intend to. Um,
Yeah.
so the way to do it, that where I started to do, was instead of getting the fancy airdrops, I'm literally just looking at where they are and then boosting myself, either using a wall, not even gaining air. Like I'm just kind of like pushing myself while rolling through the ground and trying to get speed while I'm just rolling, if that makes any sense. So no jumping, no
Yeah, you go
anything.
bowling ball, not full wrecking ball, if that makes
Exactly,
sense.
exactly. I just grounded myself and instead use the thing to get speed, and you go through them like bowling balls. This is a trick though. You gotta
Right.
pick your timings at which you want to go in. You want to go in when you're kind of behind them, a little bit distracted. If the Reinhardt is kind of like holding the front line, it's a great way to just kind of like get in there and boop him around. You can either boop him into your team or boop him off of high ground. You can spread him out. You're basically just trying to get in there and just start tossing them around and grabbing
Right.
their attention. But here's the thing, you can't stay there for too long because people will focus you down super hard if you're doing this
Mm-hmm.
all the time. So you have to come in with the speed, use your shields, and basically, as soon as you boop, you get out of there, wait for your cooldown to reset, and do it again. And basically, you never stop doing that. And eventually, you disorganize their team so much because some people are chasing you, some people are running away from you, some people got booped off the high grounds, or they're trying to get back. You're basically just messing with their position all the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It was also really fun on another context to work with other teammates that were kind of all over the place, where we had like a game where I had a Masters player, and then I'm on Diamond, and then we had another guy that's in Silver, another friend that was in Gold, and then another guy was just in Plat. So we had like this huge range of skill tiers where even though you may be better off in one tier because of what you play, the other teams were relatively fun or even, relatively speaking, and it was just really good teaching moment because there was some times where I get caught like playing offense with our supports, and I'm like, hey, don't worry about shooting me so much, I'm playing Sombra, like please shoot our allies. And then on the other side, I was playing with a Zenyatta and I was playing Ana this game, And I was basically telling this guy, I was like, look, you can't play against Widowmaker this way. This is a GM Widowmaker you're playing against. You can't stand in the middle of the open.
Oh yeah,
And
you'll
it's
get
like, well, I'm
punished
kind
real
of like
fast.
playing around my Reinhardt. I was like, Reinhardt's shield can go up and down as well as get destroyed on a dime. And you need to bank on what is hard cover and play around that, and don't peek him. Don't give him the opportunity in certain contexts. Like if we're not engaging, there's no reason to try to get chip damage because you're going to get punished.
Yeah, with Widow
So it
especially
was a
like
fun
that,
learning
right?
experience.
Because when you're at the lower ranks, you can really like
You can challenge
yeah, you
Widowmakers
can
that can't hit
challenge
their
out there. You
shots.
can go out in the open, you
Right.
can strafe around it, and you can kind of feel like Neo dodging bullets a little bit. But yeah, once you start getting into the higher tier widows, they punish you so hard that a lot of like
They
that
do.
leeway that you had before gets taken away real hard. So it is nice in the game night having that juxtaposition between like really good players and players that are still learning. Because sometimes, like you said, when you're playing at those ranks, you don't have anybody that is punishing those mistakes, right? But the second you're playing against a player that has climbed the ranks and you keep making those mistakes that you make at the lower ranks, you're gonna get punished real hard.
Yeah, I'd also like to give a quick shout out to our sponsors and partners, especially Switch Fox of the Omnic meta, because he showed up for about 3 or 4 games during the game night, and it was a lot of fun
Yeah,
to
he
see
killed it
him
as
there and play
soldier.
with him. He got a chance to play Soldier, which is great per our recommendations and a heavy. I wouldn't say recommendations. We basically said, "Hey, Switch, why don't you play the young soldier? Please do that for us, please." Like, we basically picked every hero and said, "We need a soldier, so you could do it." But yeah, we did that, and then we also have Top Score Solutions back at it, presenting the Omnic Lab in large part with them. Basically, they're an esports community that is oriented to helping you for business education analytics. If you want to help develop businesses, services, orgs, creating content about gaming and esports, they're here to help. They have a flagship podcast called Esports Business. You can find that, as well as check out their website, topscoresolutions.com, for their Discord community links, as well as any news updates that they have there. So please go check out their website and tell them that we sent you. On top of that, just a reminder, we are on Spotify, so please go check it out there. And I also want to close this by saying on Patreon, we have a new $2.50 perk for the Plat Scientist level for coaching. And I had my first session this week and did
How'd it
it
go?
today at my time, and it was a lot of fun. Shout out to Freak Out. We were able to play, and I'm not sure if he said I could say his rank, but I won't say what it was. But we were doing some Ana coaching, and so basically just put him in ranked, and he got to auto lock in Ana for 2 ranked games, and we just watched his POV during a Discord call and kind of gave him 2 or 3 principles to practice while we were there, and kind of show him some clear examples when he's doing them and when he's not, and find some highlights of his good play. And we talked a little bit about being able to be good players together in the lobby the night before, because we did the game night, and I played with him and against him a couple times. I said, hey, I noticed a couple things in game night, noticed a couple things in your plan, and then we hopped in the practice range and worked on some other things, which is great. We gave him a couple drills to practice on tracking. We also gave him a couple drills to work on his combos. And then even found, I was like, okay, well, here's some settings that you had that were wrong, because he actually has a over 2, I think his monitor goes above 144 hertz. I think it's like a 240 hertz monitor or
Oh,
something
like
nuts,
really
and he
nice
had it set
monitor.
for 60. Yeah, he had his monitor settings in Overwatch set to 60. So we fixed
Oh,
that right off the
dude,
bat.
if anything, that alone made that coaching session worth it.
Oh yeah, we fixed half of it. So, but anyways, that's pretty much it for the coaching session. If you guys want to do that, Andres has one that he's going to be following up on probably this week with a good friend that shot us an email through his pledge. But yeah, please let us know if
Yeah,
you
we're
pledge and
setting
want to
those
take
up.
advantage of that.
So if you're at $2.50 patron, make sure to reach out to us. We'll schedule that coaching session and let's get to it. Let's learn some Overwatch together.
All right, Andres, why is this episode the Need for Speed? We have 3 different patches. What is the deal here?
Oh man, Blizzard. I think that they're a little bit afraid that GOATS is not going away completely. That is still one of the best compositions to play for the point. And here comes even more buffs to the heroes that they would like to be more countery to this meta. In this case, Junkrat, Reaper, Symmetra, and Doomfizz getting some changes. the most notable being Junkrat and Reaper. And I might let you go through these more in detail, Rob, a little
Sure.
bit later. But Junkrat specifically is getting a speed increase to his grenades. So the rate of speed that they come out of his launcher and the bouncing is, I think, a little bit reduced in this case. So in general, the balls are a little bit less erratic, a little bit faster in the sense they're less bouncy. They'll get to your target in less time. And I think overall they give Junkrat a little bit more accuracy and reaction or response, right? To when he's firing or 1v1ing or trying to actually hit a target that he means to hit. This might not be a huge change for Junkrats that are really good, that are like, Grandmaster. I think of like PvP Twitch, that he was so used to that timing and he was so good with Junkrat already. For him, it might be quite the opposite, right? Like he's gonna have to relearn that hero.
Yeah, well, I do have some good news on that, because in the developer comments, rarely will we read these out verbatim, but let me just read this for you.
Okay.
With the change, the projectile speed has increased from 20 to 25. To give you an idea, Pharah's missiles are 30. That is the closest projectile speed to this. And Genji shurikens are 40. So if you're looking at comparing this to literally anything else in the game, those are the only two that you can compare it to. And as far as like, well, I guess mostly Pharah is probably the comparable one, but the projectile speed is actually like 3.5 shorter than the projectile speed from Zarya. So if you want to practice this new projectile speed on console, rarely will you have a chance to do that. So what you can do is you can hop into the training range or hop into some games in quick play and play Zarya right click and just try to get that projectile similar. The difference is going to be the explosive radius should still be larger like Pharah. So you may want to do a little bit of a combination with these two heroes to kind of get a feel for it. But here's what it says. The grenades will bounce less, and it goes from 20 to 25. With this change, quote, we are looking to slightly increase the range at which Junkrat can land direct hits. The speed of the bombs are increased, but we've tuned it so that this would not affect the arc of the projectile. So the arc is identical.
Interesting.
So if you have that muscle memory built, it's there, and it means that aiming will feel the same, but the grenades bounce less and explode sooner. That allows Junkrat to aim them more deliberately and reduce the amount of rolling grenades spamming while playing against him.
I've seen some
So,
interesting discussion.
super good stuff.
Yeah, I've seen some interesting discussion around this change because I think it's gonna give you definitely more control over how you shoot your balls. They're definitely gonna get there faster. Although I've heard some good Junkrats. I think there was a discussion going on Reddit, and unfortunately, I don't have the name of the person who started it. But shout out to him, whoever you are, because I think your thoughts were really good. He was talking about how the slower projectiles give a little bit more of area denial and control just because they float around for a little bit longer. They bounce around a little bit higher. So, in a sense, if you're shooting them at an area, the people trying to get into an area will have to wait a little bit longer or just walk into your spam. He's saying that with the faster change, the less bounces, the more speed, you lose a little bit of that, but gain it in accuracy. And to be honest, I thought it was an interesting thought. I don't know how that will pan out in the actual game, if that area denial time bouncing is really going to affect it a lot, or the gain, the accuracy they're going to be able to have to be able to just shoot whatever you want.
Right.
Is going to really make a huge difference, right? For example, I've seen PvP jump into the air and kill Pharahs, which I think is incredibly hard to do with Junkrat because of your projectile speed. This change, for example, makes those type of plays a little bit easier to do.
Yeah, I think that this change is like dual purpose. Because, like you said, Andres, this is something that Blizzard's probably trying to target specifically GOATS compositions or setup comps where they're all like Deathball-y. They don't want people to feel like Deathball is safe when you have specific heroes that can deal with it. They want the rock, paper, scissors thing in Overwatch because they want you to be able to switch and be able to do it efficiently. And so Junkrat is one of those targets already, but is kind of like, after this patch change, I think that there's one more step that they can need to do to it. And With this basically helps balance the lower echelons of play where Junkrat's spam is borderline oppressive with these changes because of how fast, these or not how fast, but how long they linger. And waiting for them to bounce around, they can literally just bounce around a corner twice and blow somebody up without like really paying attention and have the lag time or the ability to react at those lower ranks is much lower and as far as speed is concerned. And the awareness is already lower. So the bouncing thing is definitely for the low echelon player. And the speed basically means that it's going to be something that you can actually start working with at the upper tiers where dodging these shots is much harder, and it helps Junkrats like actually be useful at those ranks, because right now Junkrat's very niche in those picks in some cases. So I really like this projectile speed change a lot in that sense. But I will say that like the projectile speed is really interesting to me because if the arc isn't changed, then you can, in essence, like kind of barely lead the shot if people are close enough, and the arc really won't matter anymore. Like you said, like if there's like a midair shot that you're trying to land on a Pharah, or somebody's moving through the air like with a jump, like a Hanzo leap, or a Diva jump, or a Winston jump, or a Wrecking Ball, because of those things moving super quickly, you can actually react if they're close enough to you, and the arc won't matter anymore. But the speed of the impact when they're getting closer to you matters a whole lot.
It'll definitely help you hit moving targets that are kind of like a little bit closer to you, which I think is one of the hardest things sometimes to do with Junker, like a medium range, because leading the shots with him is kind of hard, especially because they're slow enough that you can actually react to them. You can see the Junkrat mine come out
even at medium range.
At medium range, yeah, as a player, you see them, the missiles or the explosive little balls coming towards you, and you can actually dodge them. Like I've been midair and I've made an adjustment to dodge those balls often. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like when you when you get to certain points where the mobility heroes and this level of play gets to be much higher than what you're used to, a Junkrat just doesn't get enough value because people just dodge everything. Like they can't even if you're accurate, it's really, really difficult to do it, even at the highest level.
Well, especially with mobile comps, yeah, it gets a little bit different when you start getting to the more in mobile comps. But I think that the problem with goats is that even with those, even if you got that damage in, it was still pretty hard to get a kill because of the number of shields and heals, and everyone's kind of like sticking together, so they can keep each other alive, quite healthy, and they're not gonna stand in the choke point for you forever, right? Like you're gonna get to damage them while they're walking through it, but that's about it. And if they have control of the point, then even harder, right? Because they're just not gonna give you any juicy angles if they're a good goats team.
I definitely think that the thing you said, which is basically making you more mid-rangey, is probably the big like encapsulating thing here to focus on.
So we'll see how Junkrat pans out. I think that even his damage increase hasn't been what's promised, and I don't know if it's because we're just not seeing that many goats teams right now, and we're seeing like a lot of really mobile like Hamster, Doomfist, Soldier, Sombra. Even Mercy is kind of like coming back to the meta because she's the only healer that kind of keep up with that mobility. Sometimes Lucio you still see in there too, but for the most part, I think that Junkrat is just not that effective against those kind of heroes, right? You don't have anyone to spam. Your grenades are super scattered. They're not clustering together. So I don't know. Reaper on the other hand.
Side note before we move on, I found the post on Reddit. If you want to go to reddit.com, you can search this on using the term Crow's perspective on Junkrat changes. Crow is the other really big like one trick. Well, in the past is one trick. I don't actually watch his stuff.
He was a high ranked player, but I was like blanking out the name.
CHRO is how you spell Crow. So just look up Crow on Junkrat changes on competitive Overwatch's subreddit, and you will find it. It's also on the official forums as well. It's a really long forum post.
It was well written, and I think that it's a good perspective from a Junkrat that plays a lot of this hero, which is a perspective that not a lot of us have, right? We haven't spent 3,000 hours on Junkrat.
I will say my favorite thing about this post being made is the guy on Reddit that quoted that says in the comments, "I have a 200-word essay about the 4-page paper of Junkrat instead for tomorrow." So,
Oh, Reddit.
all right. Anyway, let's continue. We have Reaper coming up next now.
Let's talk about Reaper because Reaper is getting the speed adjustment as well. One of the things that he's like the most controversial thing that Reaper has had is his teleport, right? Like since the beginning of Overwatch, that teleport has seemed rather useless. And not in every situation. Like you can definitely get some value out of it, but compared to other abilities in Overwatch, it's just a huge liability, right? That's part of your kit, and especially when you're learning Reaper, the amount of times you get killed using this ability is pretty insane. Um, it's finally getting a touch up, and I think it's finally getting brought up to the level of speed that Overwatch requires. Now his teleport is not only going to be faster, it's also not going to reveal you until you're completely teleported to your new location, which is also huge because that's one of the biggest liabilities, right? The amount of times as Hanzo or Widow or McCree, I saw a Reaper just teleport somewhere and I just kind of like aim at them, waited a second. Once they were there, boom, the easiest headshot of your life. That's not longer going to be the case. Now you cannot see their heads until they're fully teleported and they can actually move their bodies. So huge change. And not only this, you can also do it while mid-air. Now, even if you're mid-air, you can teleport to safely as long as you can target the location while you're mid-air. It still take some time, but this could actually save you from some boops for the first time. Reaper can actually like save itself from booping.
Without having to use Wraith Walk.
With no Wraith Walk, yeah. Without having to dodge the boop, like after he's been booped out of somewhere. And that it still depends where you get it booped off, because like I said, there's still a slight casting time, so you still need to be in the air for at least a good like 3 seconds or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but the other thing too with this is the invisibility that you get from the what's it called? Basically, the first half of the animation is you not just teleporting but disappearing. Mm-hmm. So what people are doing is if there's a capability that you have where you can choose your location, set up your teleport, and then move and maintain tracking on that position from a vertical place down. So you basically are disappearing in your trajectory. Or maybe you can even set up the teleport and fall behind cover and click it before you lose sight of it. You can basically teleport behind cover or teleport while falling behind cover, going invisible. And then when you reappear, you're actually reappearing half a second faster than you were before. It used to take a full second for just the appearing animation in that zone. So now you're coming out of basically invisibility in that place in half time. Mm-hmm. So half a second. And then once you get there, now you're going to be able to fire quicker. And I guess there was something... This is a side note. I think I need to look this up again, but there's somebody was saying on a stream that Seagull was making about this, that apparently that all all of Reaper's abilities now give him reload. So like Wraith Walk, Ultimate, and this ability all give him reload. I always thought it was the other two abilities. I didn't think it was this one. But if that's indeed true, if you can actually reload on this ability, that's pretty pog. Like that's pretty sweet.
That is pretty crazy, actually.
I'm gonna look it up because I don't think that's true, but
especially because if you can reload with this ability, you're basically going to reloading just with abilities as Reaper, or that's going to become like the way to do it. Kind of like when you get really good with Bastion or with Hammond, you're usually almost never reloading manually. You're just waiting for your ball to either reload for you, or you're waiting for when you in Bastion, when you change forms, if you kind of like wait a few seconds, you're auto reloading your cannon. So good Bastions, good Hammonds are basically always reloading on the move or as they're changing forms and not wasting any time with that. And I imagine it's gonna be the same with Reaper. I mean, he already is like this, right? Like if you're reloading in the middle of the enemy team, at one point you've done it wrong.
Okay, yeah, you don't get reloads from this ability.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Shadow Step doesn't give it to you. I will tell you that looking this up also gives us some insight as to what it is. It's a 35-meter range that you can look to. The cast time is 1.25 seconds. So it's a little over a second before you can fully, like, I guess, disappear. During that cast time, you're slowly
Yeah.
disappearing
So
and falling or whatever.
it's definitely still, you still have to commit a little bit of time. You're not gonna be able to use
Yeah.
this to like instantly teleport to people and kill them. They still have a little bit of leeway, but I think the sound of it is getting reduced as well, right? It's
Yeah.
barely, you barely hear it now.
Right, right. And they said that the full duration is 2.5 seconds. So basically, they're knocking half a second off of that total. So you have the 1.25 lead in and a zero point 0.5 on top of that. So it's averaging out to about 2 seconds
The point 0.5 at
for
the
the
end
total
is very
animation.
nice though. Like your end destination, being able to end it so fast is quite
Exactly.
nice. So you really only have to commit to the initial teleport. The other half is you're usually gonna be good.
Yeah. And across these 3 patches that are basically one major one and 2 hot fixes, the Reaper changes were also allowing you to teleport to places that would normally break, like railings. So if the railings are there, like they did the same thing with Symmetra's teleporter and her turrets.
Oh, that's
Latch
huge.
on and set up things so the targeting is much easier and way more fluid. And this is in my opinion, this is something way better for places like console where this technique is already really difficult to do with a thumbstick.
I don't
So
know. Even on PC, if you're trying to teleport to like high ground where there's like a railing,
it's really
it's a
glitchy
pain. It's a
feeling
pain. Yeah, because it'll
because you
start
have to have
like,
line of sight on it.
yeah, exactly. And like the teleporter will start like changing between like the railing and the actual like high ground, and you're
Right.
like, oh my god.
Yeah, so the first patch was basically saying that they were doing that. The next patch was they fixed some sort of jitter effect that was coming from this, and they made it even easier to place it on thinner surfaces. And the last one, the most recent one, was they're fixing a bug where placing shadow steps on the target of the surface that had an incline or a decline, like stairs, would just straight up fail if you looked downwards at any point during the animation. So apparently there's a little glitch with that. So the inclines
Interesting.
are now fixed.
I think they're definitely trying to make this so that you use it in the middle of the battle. I think that before they wanted to use it more as a relocation tool, but now they want
Set
to,
up and
yeah,
yeah.
more to like set up or like get behind them without being noticed. Although it was so loud that I don't know if
So
that
loud you
would work.
couldn't. Yeah.
But now they want you to use it in the middle of the battle, right? Like you get booped, turn around to the other place, or you come around from behind them, you shoot all of your guns, you wraith form to the other side of the wall, and you will probably have enough time to just like teleport out somewhere else because it only takes a second. So you only have to break line of sight with them for probably less than a second, and by the time they get to
Hmm.
you, you're already gone. You're already invisible and like peace.
Now let's take this same discussion, and I want you to kind of port your mind over to Symmetra Teleporter now. Because if you're thinking thin surfaces in regards to railings, I don't think you're thinking through. So I want you to picture this. You're playing Lijiang Tower outside in the gardens. There is a small little window on both sides into the point. You can now set up the teleporter into that window because it's thin enough that before you couldn't do it. So now you can actually get to the edge where the health pack is, set up a teleporter, and drop on a point. And in
The
situations where you can do this, you can also send objects through that. So you can send like a Diva bomb through that. You can send a, I don't know, you can like charge your Reinhardt through that if you see a fair ulting. I don't know, something crazy. You can send objects through there, like Bastion can teleport to that zone. Like there's some wacky stuff you can do with this. Now that you have thin surfaces, and that's just one map and one location.
Yeah, I really do like the changes to making placing things in Overwatch a little bit better. Because
Yeah, for
placing,
sure.
yeah, the heroes that had to place things like Reaper or Symmetra, always felt a little bit wonky, right? Like the abilities were never as fluid as some of the other heroes. Because most of the abilities in Overwatch are really fluid, really fast, that you can just do in the heat of combat, right? While these always kind of felt a little bit clunkier. I think that Symmetra still has her limitations just because you have to have a place to drop your initial teleporter. And when you're teleporting people, you better teleport them to a place where they'll be okay. Like Reinhardt teleporting to a little tiny ledge in high ground. I don't know if like that's the best. Um, but it is nicer having more control of it and be able to be like, oh, I want it in this tiny spot right now. Let's go.
Right.
Especially
Right.
with Reaper,
And
like that's gonna be huge,
yeah,
like in the middle of the battle, just being able to be mobile like that.
I definitely want to like jump into just basically custom games everywhere and try to find the most random places that you can place these now, because before you have all of this context where Symmetra basically didn't even have accessibility to using teleporter on a cooldown. And then now we have this shorter time frame between that point when she got reworked and now, where you could place the teleporter and people have kind of figured out where you can put it and like found out some good spots for it. And now we have basically this whole other section of Overwatch that you have access to for Reaper, for Symmetra, for strategies, for setting up. Like I'm gonna bet that you're gonna see more of this in especially like contenders and locations, or in Overwatch League, where maybe they just want to set up a strategy around this. Because I remember they had that strat where you would go to Anubis on point A and you would just set people up with Symmetra up there, or using Maywall. And now it's
Oh
just
yeah, with
faster to get Symmetra
Orisa.
up there, and you can get more value from her. So maybe you see Symmetra on Anubis now. I don't know. There's some cool places that you probably have access to for the teleporter on Anubis too, I would
Yeah,
imagine.
I think like bunker comp is gonna be really nice, and Symmetra fits
Hmm.
into that bunker comp quite nicely. So we'll
Right.
see how it goes. But I did want to say one thing that concerns me about Reaper, and is that he is starting to feel like really good when you are just in the ladder, especially in the lower ranks, and your team is not like super coordinated. He actually has started punishing quite severely compositions that are slow. If you're gonna take the
Right.
choke just by walking, like the no Reinhardt Zarya is still super popular in the ladder, but a lot of people are playing Reinhardt Zarya without the rest of goats. And I think that that's where like Reaper really shines, right? Like, ooh, you're gonna give me some heroes that have to walk through all of my chokes, and I can just keep flanking them and causing them trouble every time they come through here. Well, they probably have to deal with the front line of my team, either like an Orisa or whatever is getting shot at from behind. And in game night, it already happened a couple times. People that were like good reapers were kind of like abusing this. The thing about it is that it does fall short the second you go a really mobile comp, and I think that's why super mobile comps are kind of like being preferred right now, because once you have heroes that can just see Reaper and be like, later, bro, and just kind of like walk away from him, that's when
Hmm.
Reaper starts feeling like, maybe I'm not gonna get a lot of value from here, right? When you have Pharah's shooting from the sky, Hammond's just running amok everywhere. There's a Sombra. Like Reaper hates Sombras. You know what I mean? One, you can't kill a Sombra with Reaper. Two, she is your number one enemy because she takes away the one thing that makes you good and be able to take risks, right? Your Wraith Walk. Um, so I think
You
that
still do have
Reaper.
the leeching thing, so if you can get within your optimum range, you might be able to go toe to toe with her. But in general, she's going to dish out more damage than you
Yeah, but
can.
that's what I'm saying. Once you're at range where like you have the advantage, the decent Sombra will just disengage you immediately, right? Like,
Right.
oh,
We'll just
shoot,
peace
this
out.
this Reaper is right on top of me. You're not gonna 1v1 him right there. You're just gonna be like later, and then
Right.
wait for him to like have to walk to your next ally, hack
Hmm.
him right there, and then like the Reaper's like, oh damn you, Sombra.
Now, I wanted to just re-say a couple things here that people may not be aware of from the previous patch because it was a couple weeks ago. But just a reminder, Widowmaker's ult will now shut off if you die. So if you have Infrasight going and you die, it's gone. And in addition, your Infrasight has a bonus of being able to display all heroes' health bars in addition to their positions on the ladder. Okay, so when you're playing Overwatch, that's how it works now. In addition, for you Mercy players out there, Mercy's damage boost no longer will register you ult charge, and will also no longer register damage calculations on boosting the projectile when the projectile strikes. It will only be boosted when you are boosting the target and the target shoots the projectile. The moment that projectile leaves a boosted target, that thing is boosted. It's a boosted shot. And not in the sense that it's bad, in the sense that the target it's going to do 30% more damage, okay? So those are two big reminders. I just wanted to make sure I got out there because those are really quite large changes that weren't really they were like something that we discussed, but sometimes you kind of forget about when these huge changes go through. They talk about all the other cool hype ones and not really like the mid-tier stuff that kind of gets through that's relatively big changing. And especially with people seeing more Junkrat, more Pharah, even other heroes like them, maybe even Hanzo, you're going to see a lot more of that. So there's another thing that happened with this patch, which was Doomfist. And the reason we bring up Doomfist is, in general, when you look at bug fixes, and when we look at bug fixes, a lot of the times I have to scan to see if any of them are like cosmetic or silly, or if they're good. Sometimes bug fixes can just be a slogfest for the general community, but there's one thing that you always want to look at, and that's Doomfist, because any bug fix that happens at Doomfist is, in general, basically going to help him be better in general. Again. So the first thing is that Doomfist now can use Seismic Slam through. He can target stuff through like cover, more or less. So if you go to the PTR change on the 27th, it says Seismic Slam can now target through railings. This was a big change considering when they changed his range on it. You would basically have these really weird angles where you would want a Seismic Slam kind of the same high ground distance, and you would basically just be blocked because a railing wasn't shot down in the pregame or in the neutral game at some point. You just wouldn't have access to it. So now you can basically just use your Seismic Slam, break the railing by moving through it, and hit the shot. And in addition to that, you will also have the ability for your you would be getting caught on like door frames and stuff when you impact a wall. This is a really, really weird bug. But the other one was that Seismic Slam on an incline decline would just fail, kind of the same bug that happened with Reaper and May and Symmetra. All four of these heroes were affected, so they patched that up really quick. I think that was the last thing. Doomfist had a bug where his punches. Yeah, here we go. Punches enemies would not collide with walls while being knocked back by Rocket Punch. This is a real weird misnomer because this is basically in every map. There's a few places where if you Rocket Punch somebody in the wall, they won't die for whatever reason. It's just like the geometry is just like nope. So I don't know where this has been fixed, but it's probably been fixed somewhere. So you're gonna have a little bit more consistency there. And then they fixed a bug where Seismic Slam wasn't breaking objects that should break. So that was a side thing, but yeah.
They've been pretty good with
Andres,
the bug
what do you think
fixing.
about this?
Yeah, they've been pretty good with the bugs fixing lately too. They've been doing a lot of maintenance patches. They've been doing a lot of like these changes. It's like such a huge amount of changes, and some of these heroes have received several over the course of this month. So I don't know. The meta is gonna be changing quite a bit, especially in the ladder. We've already see it kind of evolving. The same things that were working last month are definitely not working this month. I think I really recommend against the Reinhardt Zarya unless you're running it with like the Brigitte and the Lucio.
Wrecking
like,
Ball Sombra, man. So good.
The Wrecking Ball Sombra, almost like the Chengdu 222 style, is what is in fashion right now, I believe. Because you get to dodge really oppressive heroes like Reaper, which is getting a lot
It's
of
like Ball
buzz
Diva,
right now.
right? Is the tanks.
Yeah, but you can play ball and diva. Honestly, you can get away with only the ball because the ball is what really like gets things done, right? Like the ball is the person who's distracting people, like we talked about at the top of the show. You're just making them go out of position, giving them no
Right.
semblance of front line. If you can drag people to start chasing you, that's great. You're just basically hanging out in the back, eating health packs, going in and booping them every ounce that you can, letting your healers heal you, rinse and repeat. And most of the time, you're not even concerned about getting healed because you're running like a single healer, right? Like Mercy is usually just running around with your team, so everybody in that team is kind of like very self-sufficient. Pharah it will be the only one who's kind of like pocketed if you're running that Pharah. But aside from that, Sombra, Hammond, Soldier 76, they're all pretty self-sufficient and they're all able to take angles by themselves that are a little bit risky, right? So like we've talked about with Chengdu, you can just attack from all fronts, create a lot of chaos, and you can avoid a lot of the heroes that are really insane right now, like Junkrat spamming chokes, like Reaper just holding you hostage as you're trying to walk in through the point and just like decimating your backline, right? Um, and
It's
sure,
basically they have like 3 setups. Like the 3 comps that feel really crazy right now is 222 with Ball Diva and some form of Sombra play. If you can swing it, is great. If
and
not, it's
Soldier
still
Soldier
playable.
fits really great in it too.
Exactly. Yeah. And then the other would be 321, 2 supports, 1 ball, 3 DPS. Sombra probably in the mix, or Soldier in somewhere in the mix, or Widowmaker. I think is one of those 3.
Yeah, Widowmaker
And
can also
then
fit in there because again, you can
yeah,
get crazy angles with her without taking too many
right. You get a ton
risks.
of space with a bunch of DPS and ball as well.
Hmm.
And then the last one is just 4 DPS, Mercy, and ball. That's the other one.
You see a lot of Doomfist nowadays too. Doomfist is gaining a
Right.
little bit of traction, especially if the enemy team is not running too many counters. It's a hero that can keep up with this kind of pace and can actually look for those picks, right? Like you can actually dive the Soldier 76 and you give him a lot of trouble. Hitting the ball, actually, Doomfist can be super annoying when you're playing Hammond because if it's a decent Doomfist, and he breaks your momentum. Like as you're diving towards a team, he just rocket punches you and you get like knocked back. You lose all of your speed and you're stuck kind of like there in the middle of the team without no your hook shot or anything. You
Yeah.
can be in a lot of trouble. He can kind of like manhandle you a little bit, and that's like Hammond's crux. Like if you don't allow him to move as fast and fluid as he wants, he can get stuck in like some pretty awkward
Mm-hmm.
places. And he's a giant body, so focusing him is not hard at all. Like whenever I see a Hammond and I'm Soldier, I can put in so much damage into that thing in such a
Just
little amount of
tracking will
time.
kill him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Um,
The
Go
Andres, what do
ahead.
you think about how Ash has been kind of set up with Tracer and Genji? Because I feel like these 3 heroes in that ball with 2 supports setup is nuts. Like you have so much chaos that you can just support Hammond with in this game now, where you just enter a Sombra, you enter a Tracer. Those heroes are like self-sufficient of themselves. Genji has the capability of just doing ridiculously degenerate things if Brigitte's not present, or a lot of healing cannot deter him. Ash feels crazy if you can just get those like one, or if you can get 2 even, with the dynamite, and now the new 20% flat nerf instead of the 50% change. The ticking damage is crazy on tanks. Like,
Ash is doing pretty good. I think that her damage is kind of quite up there. And you can do a lot with
sure,
Ash. I don't know if she fits as well into like that Chengdu style, just because
sure,
she can get the angles, but she's not as self-sufficient. Like if you have your Mercy kind of paying attention to you and stuff, yeah, I think she works in that composition. Although for the most part, I think she works a little bit better in the Orisa style, kind of like bunkers.
okay, I can see
Um,
that.
and those are still really good right now, like especially for defense. In 2CP or any of those game modes, I think
Hmm.
the Orisa bunker works quite well too. Just
Sure,
because that one has so much firepower, and if you're trying to like come up to that one, you can still kill a lot of people. Like Ash can just get like a headshot if she's boosted and like Zenyatta is out, right? Or Genji is
yeah,
out if he's trying to flank. Um,
right.
I don't know if she fits as much in the 222. Yes, Soldier just seems like such a good mid-range pressure in that composition because he can heal himself. He can disengage anytime somebody's like cutting the distance between him and danger. So I don't know. He just seems like the pick to go there. Same with Vera or Sombra. I think that Ash fits a little bit better in bunker, like we said.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're getting close here to the end of the show, but I wanted to put this out there. I've been thinking about this on my own, and Andres, feel free to chime in here, but it's been quite a long time since we've done a Q&A session outside of a hero guide, and I wanted to see what the interest was, and if you guys could start submitting, if you're interested, questions for a full Q&A episode. We really thought that it might I thought it would be a really interesting idea that we haven't done before, where we literally just have a full mailbag episode. But with how accessible our Discord is and how people can get questions so easily these days. These mailbag things have kind of fallen beside the wayside. And if they do have questions, it's usually for like when we have big pros on there, or when we have big streamers that you want to ask direct questions, and we can filter through those for specific topics. But I kind of like the idea of opening it up to pretty much anything and see what you guys really want to know. And then that'll also give us a good idea for future episodes who you want us potentially to look at scheduling. We can give you guys a couple weeks to submit these. We can try to do these maybe at the end of the month, or at every quarter, like every, I don't know, every 10 episodes of Omnic Lab. Maybe we can try to swing a Q&A, as well as like any guest ideas. We love getting those from you. If you guys want to shoot us emails and guest recommendations, we do get those and take those to heart as best we can. Again, of course, Overwatch League stuff and Overwatch League talent is much more difficult, and some guests are crazy to schedule with Japan time zone. So keep those things in mind. But yeah, we generally try to make them work. Andres, did you want to chime in on any of this?
Yeah, for the Q&A specifically, it doesn't have to be only questions about Overwatch. We're opening it up to anything that you guys would like. So if you guys want to ask questions about how do we run the show, what are some things that you should know when you're making podcasts or content creation, lessons we've learned. If you want to know about Japan and what it's like moving over to Japan, you can ask Rob. If you want to know a little bit about data analysis and what I've been doing with that. Like anything you guys want to ask the show, if it's Overwatch related, of course it'll be on topic, and we'll be happy to answer all those. But if it's anything else related to things that we do, we also would love to answer those questions, as sometimes they do crop up every once in a while. They'll ask me like, "Hey man, how do you do this with audio, or how do you make this on the show?" So feel free to ask any of those questions too.
Absolutely. I don't know if there's anything else here. Oh, there is a cosmetic change that I almost forgot to mention, which is that in the user interface, you can actually set victory poses to random. So every game that ends, if you like your victory poses, they cycle at random.
Oh, okay, cool.
So it's a pretty interesting option.
We do have
and then
the iTunes
Go ahead,
review.
Andres. Yeah, that's true. We have this iTunes review that we need to get to.
We
so
got,
let's do that. There is one.
G-Stir.
Go ahead. You can
G-Stir 11B. Thanks for writing in. He said, great podcast, but doesn't update often. And we do apologize. This month has been a little bit hectic for us, especially since I finished school and I started this new job. It's been hard to just set a hard date that we can always adhere to, especially with Rob and I living in two different parts of the world with literally opposite schedules. But one thing that we can always promise is 4 episodes a month. That we can guarantee, guys. When those episodes will come out, hopefully we can fall into more of a regular schedule soon, once everything settles and I get more of a regular schedule as well. But as for now, we can guarantee 4 episodes a month. So we do appreciate the iTunes review. Thank you, G-Stir. And I'm sorry haven't been super consistent. I do apologize to all of our listeners who do like our episodes to come out on a regular basis. We're trying to get there for you again.
Absolutely. Of course. I think that is basically it. Let's go through Patreon. Just again, a reminder that we do the coaching thing at the platinum level. That's $250 per episode. But we also have some diamond people that are officially sponsor slots for the show. That will be Shazir and Top Score Solutions, as well as a new player in the diamond sphere. We have Cloudy. And Crimson Fail, as well as Benny and the Jets, Brendan D, Refire, Roger B, Chris DePlaya, and Tragic Zach, alongside a updated pledge from Alonzo O and 2 new Patreon supporters, Sean L and AOJ. Thank you guys, because I can't pronounce that. I'm sorry. I don't know how to say that. But yeah, welcome to the team. We really appreciate getting new scientists, especially now. The show has really enjoyed good sponsorship and high level tier of support, but the lower tier support has always been like, we would like to have more people, if that makes sense, and less like people like committing tons of their money to us. I understand the flex, the good flex of sponsorships. It's great. It feels good, man. But we really like just having people involved and hanging out as well. So don't feel like you're neglected. We love the people evenly at all levels. So if you guys want to support the show, we'd really appreciate it. Please come dialogue. You guys get private channel in the Discord. You can ask us anything you like. We'll try to be as available as we can to the Patreons as a priority in general. Let's see here. Next week we are gonna be back in April, and it will not be an April Fool's episode. I can guarantee that. So hopefully we can check out some cool news. We might even talk about if there is any April Fool Overwatch jokes. We'll be sure to cover that. And we should have a new event coming around the horizon. We're getting pretty close here, I think, to the next event. So buckle up for probably the next archives, right?
Yeah, that's when their anniversary rolls around.
I'm excited for that. That usually means new general package skins for the standard loot boxes, which are always good. All right, that's gonna do it for the episode, you guys. Just remember to check us out on our community. Check us out on Spotify, and we'll see you pretty much anywhere and everywhere else is on the website. You can check out merch and all that jazz there. Omniclab.com. Andres, where can people find you?
If you want to find me, you can always look me up on Twitter at iPlayGames. You spell that IPLAI Games. And also make sure to catch Owl Recap. We're going to the second stage of Overwatch League, and we're going to be bringing you all of the news, all of the updates. And if you want to just stay in touch and have a good community to be a part of to watch Overwatch League and discuss it, that's the place to be.
If you want to find me, I'm on Twitter at the tag NotRob. I've been streaming this week, you guys. I streamed over 25 hours this week, including the game night. And it was mostly Zelda Breath of the Wild in a crazy time zone, so I understand if you can't make it, but it's pretty EU friendly, I would say. And if you guys want to come hang out, it's at NotRobMay on twitch.tv. And remember, don't be a lab rat, be a scientist, be good to each other, and we'll see you next week.
Bye. GG, Shaz.
Thanks, guys, for the chat. We really appreciate the bits as well. Thanks for coming and hanging out.
JP Kobu, 5 minute live.